Hortus, the Escapismo, is amazing. Starting the year with the clickbait that I am going to continue to use for the rest of the year. Gotta at least match my numbers from last year. So the latest entry in the Laterano series of events is setting the ground for the Viviana Arturia event, as well as setting up Laterano to be one of my favorite regions in Arknights, period. The story of the event takes place sometime after the events of Guide Ahead and takes a step back from the larger scale conflicts to tell a very down-to-earth narrative. The story centers around local artist, executor, local forgettable NPC, insider, and local girl boss lesbian, Spuria, as they journey to recover Sanctiminium Ambrosi, a Laterano abbey which has been missing for the past 60 years. This abbey was originally a joint venture between the countries Laterano and Iberia, and as it has been missing since the profound silence, it cannot be in a good state of repair. So obviously some seaborne shenanigans will have to take place during this event, which is good as they are one of my favorite little bits of flavoring that an event can have. The gang was sent after Lumen and Oren, who lost contact with Laterano. So their primary objective is to locate the missing emissaries and safely return the abbey to Laterano control. But obviously things won't be that simple. The event is a pretty indirect sequel to Guide Ahead and gives us a further look at the law of Laterano, a supercomputer that runs Laterano serving as its god. Similarly to Guide Ahead, Hortus tells the story of the conflict between Sancta and Sarkaz. Unlike with Guide Ahead though, Hortus shows us actual coexistence between Sancta and Sarkaz, with Gerald, the leader of a group of Sarkaz, and Stefano, the abbot of the abbey, being good friends. It additionally shows us the relationship that is formed between two Sancta and a Sarkaz. Fortuna, Delphina, and Raimund do happen to be great friends, and I can totally understand why both Raimund and Delphina are completely against this relationship falling apart due to the demands of Laterano. The event does challenge the notion that Sancta and Sarkaz can't coexist, but ultimately nothing will change on a larger scale for the two races, but we do know that the coexistence is possible now. The event also gives us Arturia's largest role so far. As someone who's been floating around from event to event, it's nice to get some more focused screen time for her. Serving as more of an antagonist to Executor than to the event overall, she's a very interesting character, and I am looking forward to seeing her when she becomes an operator. And to wrap up the character segment of this video, I'm going to talk about Executor himself. Man's autism is actually too powerful, and it's genuinely one of the most interesting things to read about in Arknights. Man genuinely during the course of this event shows me that his autism is so great it overcomes the bounds of racism that exists between the Sancta and Sarkaz. So what is the story of Hortus the Escapismo? Well, Executor is made a saint and given the task of recovering the abbey. Light work for our main man, I'm sure. The abbey isn't rainbows and sunshine though. Arturia has been being a little silly and sowing some discourse. Additionally, Aulus, a priest of the Church of the Deep, has infiltrated the abbey and has transformed one of the Sarkaz, Hymen, into a seaborn. And if that wasn't bad enough, the friendship between the Sancta and the Sarkaz is breaking down. The Laterano emissaries, Lumen and Oren, gave the ultimatum on whether the abbey would be saved or not, and the Sarkaz are not welcome in Laterano, and so must be left behind. Obviously, tensions were rather strained by this, and it ended up with them taking Lumen prisoner, which was not the best idea, as now the Laterano executors have to get involved. Estara and Erendel, two young Liberi children, are also running around the abbey searching for their mother, Hymen. Arturia initially looks after them, but Executor will take up that role later, agreeing to find their mother, which is a task he does complete. Clement, the local deerman gardener, encounters Executor and brings him to the abbey. Spuria breaks off from the group during this time, encountering the young Fortuna and repairing her weapon. Unfortunately, this will have disastrous consequences. Executor informs Geralt and Stefano that the Sarkaz shall under no circumstance enter Laterano, but Geralt has already accepted this and is preparing the Sarkaz group to leave. Delphina isn't so accepting of this however, and rushes off to fight Fortuna. Not really sure what she's hoping to accomplish, but she's gonna try something. Spuria meets with Lumen, where she learns that Lumen herself is staying in the abbey without duress, choosing to hopefully, peacefully resolve the situation. Things reach a head, however, when during an argument, Fortuna team kills Delphina and becomes a fallen Sancta, further straining relations within the Abbey. Executor chooses to suppress this information as best he can so as not to cause further strife. It's very interesting that even when it is an accident, a Sancta that harms another Sancta will still fall. The law of Laterano is clearly not a very lenient force. Lumen, during this time, gets a visit from the transformed Hymen, resulting in a chase as Lumen attempts to prevent the Seaborn from running rampant. Clement confides his doubts in Arturia, with her performing a song for him. Arturia's arts are best displayed through her music, and it begins to manipulate Clement. While not intrinsically being negative, her songs tend to bring out the worst in people, with Executor going to look for her after hearing the strings of her music, finding Istara and Arundel in the process. The abbot Stefano confides in Aulus, having lost his fate due to the course of events that are separating the Sorgas and the Sancta, being tempted to join the Church of the Deep as a result. The section of the abbey where Executor found the children is set ablaze, with the culprit being Clement. Clement has truly lost faith at this point, but we only learn it was him later in the event, with Executor giving us a Emiya Shiro level quote during the events of this fire. The fire is eventually suppressed due to the assistance of both the Sorkas and the Sancta. Lumen, while chasing the Seaborn, is confronted by Aulus, who assumes the wheelchair-bound Sancta is an easy kill, but Lumen ain't no pushover, standing out of her wheelchair and driving him away. She unfortunately loses track of both him and the Seaborn during this, but it is okay as the Seaborn doesn't actually mean anyone any harm. The Seaborn Hymen finds her children asleep, but instead of eating them, places a blanket over them. Despite no longer being human, a mother's instincts shines true, with even Executor letting her go after seeing this. Oren, who has been hiding up until this point, as a group of Sancta surround the abbey, dedicated to the elimination of the Sorkas. Geralt, however, has a solution for this, offering his own head to Executor to protect the Sorkas. Clement delivers it to him in what may be one of the darkest CGs in Arknights history. Truly haunting stuff when I first read this event and saw this CG show up on screen. Executor is left questioning the events that have transpired after this point. He of course struggles to think outside the box, but in the burned down abbey, he finds a lone flower that survived the blaze. He still has his doubts, but this one sign fills him with certainty. The Sancta are bickering amongst themselves at this point, but Executor puts an end to it, commanding the Laterano soldiers to leave the abbey so that order can be restored, and giving orders to the other members of his group. Further, Stefano considered infecting the communion with seaborne tissue, but decided against it. Despite his loss of faith, he couldn't go through with it in the end, and spares everyone in his congregation from that fate. Clement has the seaborne tissue and now stands before Executor and Arturia in order to finish his destruction of the abbey. He has planted explosives beneath the entire monastery, but luckily Executor destroys the lighter he was going to use to set it off before he can do anything. Under the influence of Arturia's arts, Clement consumes the seaborne flesh, dying in the process. Clement concludes in his final moments that there is no God and that no salvation exists upon terror. Executor is deeply disturbed by this and turns his gun on Arturia, although Arturia is saved by her own application of arts and the timely arrival of Latanian Castor, sent by one of the empresses. She is then escorted from the abbey and shall return to us in her future event. And that pretty much wraps up the entirety of this event. The Sorkas willingly leave the abbey with the fallen angel Fortuna accompanying them. The abbey is refueled and begin its return to Laterano, and Aulus and the seaborne Hymen watch the abbey leave from the distance. Hymen hoping that her two children are looked after well by the Lateranos. Executor is filled with doubts at the end of the event, but is still motivated to enact the law throughout the land. Overall, I would say this event is one of the best that has come out in recent times. It actually made me care about Executor as a character, and the way they wrote him is extremely enjoyable to consume. Arturia too is extremely interesting, and I am looking forward to her role in this event. Hortus gives us some great Fallen Sancta lore. We actually get to see one fall in real time. We got to see Mostima fall during a flashback in Guide Ahead, but it is very interesting to see the different scenario that occurs during this event. Additionally, there is some excellent Seaborn lore, the evolution of Hymen from Sorkas into Seaborn into intelligent Seaborn. It's very interesting to see, and I wish I had some of this knowledge when I made my Seaborn video a few months ago. It is extremely interesting to see that the creators are putting Seaborn related lore into events that have Iberia related content. So in the future, I am hoping we get more tangentially related Seaborn lore. I hope Arknights learns more from Hortus, and in the future we get a lot more of these lower scale, more personal stories focusing on characters that haven't really got much shine. Hortus, I hope, will serve as a fantastic example for them to use going into future events. That's about it from me though. Y'all be good people, and I will talk to you next time.